During the editing process, we discovered that the Zero Time Dilemma segment audio has been compromised. We sincerely apologize for the terrible audio quality, and we at The Big N strive to improve in future installments. Please enjoy today's episode. I'm Mike.
I'm Nathan.
I'm Geoff.
I'm Junaid.
And I'm Candice.
And this is The Big N. Today on the show, we have a double bill planned with reviews of both Tokyo Mirage Sessions and Zero Time Dilemma. We're also going to discuss Pokémon Go and its impact. So today we have two guests. We have Junaid and Candice.
And just returning from last podcast.
Welcome back, Geoff. So we'd like you both, Junaid and Candice, to tell a bit us and our listeners about your relationship with Nintendo, what you guys like about Nintendo, what you play, what you don't play.
Should I start? Mm-hmm. Okay, so actually my first system was not a Nintendo system. I was introduced to video games through a Sega Genesis, specifically Sonic 2, which was my first console, but for those of you who've played Sonic, you're probably aware of the drowning music. It scared the hell out of me as a child, so we went back to Zeller's and got it traded in for Super Nintendo, because that was apparently a thing you could do back then. And it came with Super Mario All-Stars. I didn't actually take to Mario. I guess I had already become a Sonic fanboy at that point. But it was when we got Donkey Kong Country 2 a little bit later that I really started to get into Nintendo systems. And a lot of renting from Blockbusters, trying out different things.
Yeah, Blockbuster.
That was good times. And then more obsessed with Pokemon when that started, because I was around 10 when Pokemon came out, and hey, Ash is 10, I'm 10, this is the best. And then later in high school, I got really into Fire Emblem as well. But in general, I stuck with all the Nintendo consoles, but I'd say over time, I became less and less interested in them. I've still continued to collect them all, but I've also become more of a Sony fan. I've got all their consoles and the PSP now, not the Vita. But I still have to say most of my favorite games still ended up on Nintendo systems, so I still have a lot of love for them, even if I'm not confident about where they're going.
Cool. As for me, I started playing when my dad bought I think it was an NES, and I was too young to play at that time. But a few years later, we got a Super Nintendo, and then it was just Mario Kart, Mario Paint, Mario everything. And from there, I just got all the actual home consoles up until the Wii. I got the Wii, and then after that, well, now I just don't. I just play handheld games. So, yeah, it's been mostly Mario, racing games, that kind of stuff. And I don't really play any other game systems.
Neither do I.
I just really like Nintendo. I don't know.
That
must be nice.
That's exactly what they want to hear. Great. Good. So, we're going to go dive into the news, and we have a few updates for this episode. Animal Crossing got an update after 4 years, which seems like a really long time for a game to get an update. But they've announced amiibo support, including all those Animal Crossing, I guess all the Animal Crossing amiibos, released for the Animal Crossing.
And the cards, I believe?
And cards?
Cards act the same as the amiibos if you
Okay.
have them.
So they're integrated with New Leaf, and I think the Splatoon amiibo, the new Splatoon amiibo are also...
They'll be up here. I think they'll have a performance in the village, I believe, or something like that.
Oh, really?
That's a pretty significant upgrade,
Yeah.
if true.
Yeah, so I remember when amiibo came out, I'm like, oh, cool, maybe they'll update all these games that came out, like the Pikmin game, the Donkey Kong game, but nice to see, I guess, 4 years later that something is getting amiibo content. I think it's changed as New Leaf. It's maybe they want to link it to the mobile game coming out.
Yeah, they probably want to keep Animal Crossing top of mind, so hey, remember this exists because soon we'll be using this brand.
A lot of people still play New Leaf.
Yeah,
so.
it's like I think it was just like a couple months ago that Japan stopped doing updates for Animal Crossing. Like they gave like items and they had like item releases.
Oh.
Like
you know,
via the
Pass.
internet, yeah, like
All the way up to
years,
now?
yeah, like up until like I think a few months ago.
But
So
not
at least
here?
I don't think the
think
North
so.
American servers did it. No.
It's kind of Tomodachi Life. Tomodachi Life kept getting upgrades up until I think a couple months ago.
Yep. So I mean, it's good to see that there's new content, and I guess we'll see in a few months whether they'll be connected to the mobile game. But I think you guys are right that that's probably what trying to keep it in the news. And a new Professor Layton game got announced, but with a different protagonist this time. Someone fill me in because...
Is it? I heard the Professor Layton voice actor. Did something happen to them?
No, he's.
no.
I think he's fine.
This is
Layton
that was my
Layton.
assumption.
No, level 5's exclusive deal, as far as I know, just ended a while ago. So, and they said we're not making more Layton games, at least exclusively for 3DS. So this new Professor Layton game is for 3DS and mobile.
And they've had
And it stars a
Layton-
woman.
Yeah,
They've had Layton spin-off games for mobile in the past. I think they called it the Layton Brothers. And this one is Lady Layton, which I think people have said, does this make the other games non-canon? Because the other ones were Layton's sons, and then this one is Layton's daughter. So it's...
Why can't they both be canon?
Yeah, I guess it can be, but there doesn't seem to be any evidence of the brothers in the new one.
Okay, so hooray, at least for a game with a new female protagonist.
If you read their release statement on that fact, though, it's really weird. Like, they were saying how, I'm not sure if it was just a mistranslation, but they were saying how female gamers don't always like female protagonists, so that's why the Layton game was popular. So we tried to introduce a female protagonist to appeal to the female audience. Like, it seemed like they were contradicting themselves. Like, it must be a translation thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, if that was
really
in Japanese.
Weird.
I did just watch the trailer a few hours earlier. I don't follow Layton. Are animals supposed to talk in the series? Or
So
is that some
the
new
basic
thing?
premise to every Professor Layton game, it's like pseudo-anachronistic London that's probably modern time but looks olden time, and there's some sort of normal mystery afoot. Layton goes to start the mystery, or start solving the mystery with Luke and his sort of girlfriend, protege girl, and then halfway through the game, something scary, like a spooky ghost or the Loch Ness Monster. And then the game goes off of that. There's a spooky ghost or the Loch Ness Monster going around, and Layton solves that problem instead.
That's interesting.
So a talking dog isn't weird. Like,
Okay.
It's weird for the beginning of the game. Like, it's the sort of thing that usually would happen halfway through. I'm a talking dog, Layton! Oh my! Like, that's what usually happens, but, so yeah, it's different.
Okay. Yeah, it didn't seem like the type of series that would have talking animals. I played Rhythm Thief, which aesthetically is very similar, except, Paris. And yeah, animals don't talk in that, so... But Napoleon's in that, so...
I think this is also, it's going to be the first one that's more episodic. At least from what the developers have, Level 5 has said, that in previous games it was sort of like an ongoing narrative. Apparently this one is going to work more like an anime series, where, here's a half an hour, episode with puzzles, and here's a new story. I'm sure because it's a video game, they'll put little plot beats in there, but it seems like they're going for more of a directly, episodic thing instead of a huge plot.
Well, I mean, at least I guess we'll see next. Is it coming out this year, or is it?
It'll be next year for North America. I think later this year for Japan.
Yeah, I think it's fall. It's relatively soon in Japan.
And speaking of things that did happen, since our last episode, we were talking about Pokemon Go, and has since been released. And a lot of things happened in a short period of time. Apparently, Pokemon Go has launched around the world, including Canada. Nintendo stocks skyrocketed up, then went down after people realized Nintendo doesn't make Pokemon Go.
That was good. That was...
So,
I think it was went up 25% and it didn't go up higher because the
50%.
laws prevent... No, in one day.
Oh, it's 1 day.
Because they said in one day it's not allowed to go any higher.
Wow.
That's the regulation. But it would actually have gone higher within 1 day.
So then, as I said, it went down because people realized Nintendo doesn't make Pokemon Go. And then...
I'm sure there were other reasons.
I'm sure that was a big reason.
That was the main one.
That was
Everyone's
the main
like...
reason. As soon as Nintendo tells the public,
Stocks are silly.
I also feel that people realized that, it wasn't going to be the biggest thing forever.
Well, this was only I think a couple days after the stock fell, but then the other news started coming out, and also you're right. The other big one was when they said it was delaying a release in Japan.
Yeah.
That also hit the stock a bit. So that was one, and then it seemed my impression was it was 1996 again. Suddenly, the big topic of radio shows Pokemon Go, good or bad for your kids. Find out at noon. Callers calling in. I remember Pokemon in 1997. I don't want these kids coming in my yard.
No, but that's the thing, because in I think it was Newmarket, there was the lady who shot kids' from a roof with
Yeah.
a pellet gun, and your mental image is kind of like, "Hey, you crazy kid, look at video games." She was 29. She was basically our age, and she was always no. It's still recording.
Oh, yes. And then, there was, like, parents talking like, Pokemon's good. I remember playing trading card games. It taught my kids to read. Now we can go outside and find Pokemon. And it was kind of amazing. Like, I just felt like everyone is playing this. Everyone's talking about it. I was walking around in small towns like Barrie. I'm like, I'm just going to walk around. What are those people doing? Pokemon Go. It's everywhere. So it was just kind of funny. It just felt like it was, everyone was talking about it. And then other things started internally with the game. Nathan, you want to get into this a bit more?
Alright, so Pokemon Go, after people started to get into it, and then Niantic decided to release an update that took out the tracking feature of the game, and then they got rid of the third-party tracking features, which everybody loved because they said it would make the game. It just made it more playable, is what people have told me that it was.
Actually, from what I read, the reason they took off the main third-party ones was because it was actually accessing some private data within the app.
Yeah, they were going, I think, to their servers. I think, even.
Which is why some of the tracking services are still up, because those are just based on user inputted data. Like someone says, "Hey, there's a Squirtle here," or whatever, and then it goes up into there. Yeah. So it's not actually going into the coding or breaching anything like that.
Because I remember they're talking about how it was using their API data, and then I was messing with their servers, which might explains a couple of issues with them. But yeah, now
people hate it. Apparently,
now people are annoyed with it. That's only within last week. We were actually supposed to shoot this podcast a week and a bit ago,
and it's good we didn't.
People ask for refunds of purchases because they can't, use the tracking systems, and the company's like, okay. Like,
that's not related.
Yeah. Apparently, it was super easy.
That's such a bluff.
Wow.
Apple's like, hey, we'll refund you your purchase.
But I mean, it's kind of nuts that all this happens in such a short period of time.
It's only been a month, I think, since the U.S. launch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, of course, all the stories about people breaking into places, and I guess parents not teaching their kids what trespassing means.
Also, people not realizing how the game works is another big thing. Because I'm going to trespass. If the Pokemon's within 50 yards of you, you can click it and catch it. There was no reason for any of that trespassing nonsense.
Or getting hit by cars, or falling off a cliff.
Just going on the highway was a dumb idea in general. I think the game doesn't spawn Pokemon on highways. It will spawn them away from major roads. Yeah. So people were just being dumb.
Because it's based on walking routes. Because that's what it's based on from Ingress.
And then, people complaining about some of the spots, like the Holocaust and things. We don't want a Pokemon spot.
Let's take that off. You don't need photographs there. I like that, the ROM and the zoo, they've been kind of...
the zoo, of course, it's perfect.
The ROM's the Royal Ontario Museum, in case someone from the future listens to this, not in our close social circles.
Or a non-Canadian, I guess.
So, the museums have sort of embraced it, the zoo's embraced it. That's great. And they're getting more traffic, at least they did. I'm sure even their brief spike in money is good. Mm-hmm. They need to feed Harper's Pandas, as you call them, Mike.
That's a long time.
And those really cute penguins.
And people are going out more to parks, so that's, we can't
what
say...
About penguins?
I said, and the really cute penguins.
The penguins are great.
Yeah, that's what I like.
People should visit the penguins.
Yeah.
They're much better than the pandas.
Oh, for sure.
The penguins do things.
So, I mean, I don't have Pokemon Go because I don't have data, so...
Yep, I pretty much have the same problem.
I have the same problem too. I just play with Wi-Fi.
I have Wing Mobile, so it's even worse than no data.
But I was looking at this and I kept thinking, it doesn't really matter this success. I was like, they already won. They can make $0 out of this, and they've already won because everyone was talking about it on the news. It introduced Nintendo's brand and the Pokemon brand back to a whole new generation of people, both people I guess our age who may have got out of it, and also younger kids who probably, we don't have 3DSs, but what's this Pokemon thing on my phone? And I'm like, it doesn't matter now, but I bet come Christmas, Pokemon Sun and Moon is going to sell phenomenally well.
I think that's the best thing about Pokemon Go, that it will increase Sun and Moon sales.
It also probably increase 3DS sales too. I work at a video game store, and our 3DS stock went from about 15 consoles to 0 in about 2 weeks.
That's pretty
good.
Wait,
that's good. Oh
yeah. I'm just saying because everybody just bought all the consoles.
Yeah, so I do think it. That's the main. doesn't even matter if it sucks. I'm not complaining. I just think people are going to go and buy Sun and Moon, and it's going to introduce a younger generation of kids who their phone is like the first console in a way, whether it's a handheld or like a physical home console. Yeah, sorry, a computer. And I think this will get them into Nintendo's brand, and for Nintendo's sake, hopefully they'll go buy 3DS at Christmas time and go pick up the new Pokemon game.
Also, Pokemon Go's Boom made Legendary get on that and secure the rights for the Detective Pikachu movie. Live action Pokemon movie that will finally.
What's his name? Danny DeVito?
That is what people want, but that is not being confirmed.
I believe Danny DeVito said, "I don't know what Pokemon Go
Yeah,
is."
he was like, "What's going on?"
That's your Danny DeVito.
But yeah, so that's confirmed at the Pokemon.
it's been confirmed, yes.
That's gonna happen unless it gets shut down.
weird.
It's development hell happens, but
every
right
other
now
video
they're
game
making
movie.
it.
Mm-hmm.
We've got some video game movies in the past. We got Warcraft. Assassin's Creed isn't going to be canceled in the next, whatever.
That looks like it'll be at least okay.
Yeah, that's what people said about Warcraft.
Okay, but Tomb Raider was okay.
That was a long time ago.
A long time ago, though.
Okay, well, that's my only good example.
And then we don't talk about the 90s video game movies. Like Doom or Super Mario Brothers. We don't want to talk about those.
Yes, the Gravity Boot.
Tomb Raider, to be fair, also seems like the most safest Hollywood movie because it's basically an action movie.
Indiana Jones, but
Yeah.
lady.
And it had, Angelina Jolie kind of before, I guess, peak popularity, but, most of the other movies don't exactly have, big stars attached.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's Pokemon Go, and we also have Pokemon Sun and Moon news. And I have to say, I'm kind of happy about this because way back when X and Y came out, I was complaining, saying, "Oh, they're not making anything new. The only new thing we got was the Mega Evolutions."
We got Fairy type. We got 3D movement. We got character customization.
That's nothing. That's
Character
Customization
customization
cool.
is big, yeah.
again, that's like peanuts. That's like they changed one tiny little thing. Well,
To me, Pokemon
supposed to
X and Y was the first game I bought since Gen 2 because I thought there was significant enough
And I
differences.
don't think... I don't follow the metagame and the competitive battles, but I'm pretty sure Fairy type, threw a wrench into that.
Oh, for
at least.
sure.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
good. They had to adapt.
Yeah.
oh, it did throw things in, but it's still like when I see these new announcements, the gyms have completely changed now in the
Oh
new
yeah, this
one.
is like the Orange Islands practically.
Yeah, which is cool that they're doing that for a mainline game.
Mhm.
Like the fact that no traditional gyms and instead the challenges and the totems
Yeah.
and the kahunas.
Katahunas.
So I was talking to Nathan, saying I guess it'll be only 4 gyms because it's 4 islands. Or
It'll
gym-like.
be more complicated than that, I'm sure. I'm sure at least by the end of the game we'll have a situation where this island challenge is please defeat these 4 mini gym leaders, then take on the island champion, whatever they call those, and then battle the totem, and then battle the kahuna. It seems like there's not a lot of things to do, but because of the open-ended nature of the challenges, I think they can spread it out a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And we still don't even know if there's going to be an evil team in this game.
Mm-hmm.
If there is an evil team, that sort of adds more sort of boss characters.
The Dark Kahuna.
I think they're treading on thin water by even calling them kahunas, to be honest. I don't think having dark kahunas would be a good
jeez,
idea.
I didn't even...
They're walking the line.
But it's nice to, I think, to see some variety. I mean, for them to finally do something new and finally shake it up a bit more. And then also we got the Aloha forums, which I didn't know was about, and Nathan showed me this morning. I'm like, so it's
Oh my
just
God.
different colors of Pokemon.
I
Oh,
think
no.
Executor more than do
No,
colors.
Not
Did you see Executor?
Yeah, like a really tall tree. But like,
You have
He
not-
got Shoryuken. He's
You
like...
have not-
it's silly.
Mike has not been on the internet since Executor was seen.
Oh no.
It's the most popular Pokemon since I don't know what, like Sylveon. It's
kinda
everyone
silly,
loves
though.
it.
Come on, they're
Of
just
course. That's why we
That's
like it.
That's why the internet
No,
loves
not
it.
the Executor. In fact, there's just changing Pokemon's types and colors to add
No,
more
I think
Pokemon.
that's awesome. It's
That's
like,
a very normal RPG thing to do, to have variants
and
in
it's a
enemies.
real world, not convergent,
Yeah.
but split evolution type thing. Not Pokemon evolution,
Hmm.
metamorphosis, actual Darwinian evolution, in which in the series there's also those birds which are other examples of Darwinian evolution. It's like Pokemon was like, for the longest time, oh, we're evolution, but no, it's magical evolution. Don't worry, people who don't like that in this game, they're just like, fine, we'll have some real evolution. Our trees are different here, the birds are different. Like, it's neat. Executor is great. Dragon type is weird.
Yeah, I'm not sure where they got
and
that.
like
It's from his long neck.
Wait, whoa.
Executor is Grass Dragon now instead of Grass Psychic.
Yeah.
Um,
But Charizard's still fire flying.
How's
Well, you
how's
can't
a
take
tree
away
a
a
dragon?
So
That's the funniest part.
Okay, so the biggest example, or the most common excuse or thing online is that, it's like, the I think it's Dracnae plants, people, Lucky Bamboo is a member of the family, there's lots of species, but people call it a dragon plant sometimes, but it's not a palm tree, so I don't understand, but that's the best thing people have come up with.
Yeah.
Wow, that's kind of sad.
It's not sad,
He hasn't seen
weird.
it, so...
No,
I
I'm
saw
sure
the
he's seen
picture of it.
Yeah,
Oh.
he's seen it.
If you're gonna tell me a giant tree is a dragon,
Well,
okay.
to be fair, a bluebird with clouds as wings is a dragon, and
Isn't like a little slime thing a dragon?
yeah, like the Gudrub. Although apparently that's a Korean myth that does fit in with a dragon, sort of.
We're talking about Altaria with that.
Yeah, Altaria. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a cloud bird, and it's not a dragon. Like, there's lots of Pokemon that their types doesn't make sense. In the new game, they have Fomantis and whatever the other Mantis is. They're not bug types, but I think Fomantis might be like, instead of, it's spelled F-O Mantis, but maybe it's a riff off F-A-U-X Mantis, which is why they're not bug types, but Fo as in false mantis.
Okay.
But they're just pure grass, even though they're mantises. Mantids. Whatever the plural of mantis is.
So it's a grass
Nighttime.
bug Pokemon.
That's not a
But
bug
it's a
type.
grass type bug Pokemon.
No, it's not.
That's not a bug type.
Exactly.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
See, I'm a Digimon fan. So, this is a little... Yeah.
Well, don't worry. Now we have Z moves, so now it's like every Pokemon has one special attack they can do each battle, like a
Sunset Yellow Overdrive!
like a super hyper beam.
I'm excited to learn what all the different
moves are.
elements.
Oh, they didn't
or
show them
types
all in the
moves.
video?
No,
They showed
Well,
like
they showed a lot.
They showed the starter moves.
starter
and
moves and
Pikachu.
Pikachu.
Because they had to.
Yeah.
I thought it's by type.
It
It's
is,
by type, yeah.
but all 18 types are getting one.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I'm
okay.
curious to see what like the bug ultimate move is, or the fairy ultimate move.
There
thing.
used to be wind. Just watch.
I wonder if they'll take anything from Pocken's like finishers. I assume Pokken has something like that. Seems like
well,
an
they have a
easy
super-
adapt. Does the super move?
No, there aren't like the moves.
Yeah,
Those
yeah.
moves are one-shot attacks they could use.
So at least they're doing some innovation and trying to change this up. I mean,
Also, completely 3D movement the first time. The last game had sort of an imitation of 3D movement. This is also the first game to not use a chibi proportion, so they're using basic, like it's an anime style, but basically heads high, like standard body proportions for all in-game models, which is a first for the series. Sure, there's other things. Riding Pokemon is new. They're doing a lot of cool
You
new
could ride
things.
the goat in
It's a
X and Y.
Yeah, but like, there's more things you can ride now.
Yes.
Because like,
It's an expansion on
and
the
in
new-
what do you call it? In Alpha and Omega, you could ride on the Latios Mega Evolutions.
Okay. Considering NY, contrary to what Mike says, was also a big changes.
Also, they're finally getting rid of the stupid IV nonsense a little.
They're
bit.
getting rid of IVs?
They're not getting rid of them, but they're giving you the ability to train them like you could train.
like super
EVs
training.
from exactly.
Okay.
So
It's like
they're making
hyper
it easier.
training.
So now it's not like I have
Yeah.
to breed like a million eggs just to get a good idea.
It's, letting people who want to put some effort, but not, 24 hours a day of, breeding five, like basically eugenics.
So now you just need to breed for shinies.
Exactly. Like, there's no more eugenics war in Pokemon, which is fantastic.
So that's Fire Emblem.
It's also sort of Disgaea thing about
Oh
it.
god, it's definitely...
Although Disgaea, that's only extra game content. Like, you don't need to
You don't
do
need to do
that to
that.
beat the main
But the
game.
extra game is the game in Disgaea.
Sort of. It's an RPG, so the main story thing is usually 30 hours anyways.
and speaking of RPGs, we're now going to talk about Tokyo Mirage Sessions.
Alright, so Tokyo Mirage Sessions developed by famed JRPG developer Atlas. They worked on the Shin Megami Tensei and Persona series, and it was produced with assistance from Intelligent Systems, the creators of the Fire Emblem series. So this is a collaboration
And
of...
Codename Steam.
And Codename Steam, oh boy. And this is a collaboration between the two series, Shin Megami Tensei and Fire Emblem. Initially announced in January 2013 during the Wii U Direct, where basically everything was announced all at once, and Tokyo Mirage Sessions is the final game from that Wii U Nintendo Direct to be announced.
That was the one where they just showed like the 12 Fire Emblem characters. Like, these characters could be in the final game.
Oh, I was so excited. Roy's gonna be in it. Erica in the frame. Lynn was gonna be in it. And Demi-Fiend for SMT, because that's about all I know.
And then none of that ended up happening. And then in 2015, here's all these new characters, and suddenly this game is J-pop, and everyone's like, "What is this? I'm leaving. I don't care about this game anymore."
Yeah.
That's basically everybody's impressions of that trailer. So then after that initial trailer, then everybody is just like, this game is not going to be good. And then localization issues came up, and everybody was just like, yeah, this is just a train wreck. So, but I guess now we're going to talk about that and find out what the final product was after everybody written it off.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should start some general impressions. And, I'm just going to start with myself, because I'm sort of the person coming at it as someone who does not play a lot of RPGs. JRPG or any, I guess, Western RPG.
RPGs in general, basically.
Yeah, like, really, I bet I played like 10. Like, it's... And
Pokemon Red, Pokemon Blue, Pokemon Yellow.
I don't count Pokemon.
Fire Red.
I don't count Pokemon. I don't count, like, the Mario RPGs, because they're not...
You can count those.
I don't know. Count the first two Paper Mario games.
They're their own kind of beast to me. At least compared to, like, I guess, sort of heavy JRPGs like, Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy, or, like, don't say the wrong one or else someone will get mad. But, so... And I really got this game because I'm like, oh, it looks kind of interesting. It's about pop idols, and it's heavily drenched in Japanese culture, and the battle system looked kind of interesting. And I really didn't even care that it doesn't really have much Fire Emblem. I have to say, like, I'm really impressed with this game. It's one of my favorite games of this year. It's one of the few games that hasn't, like, super disappointed in me. And I think it's because I just didn't really have a lot of expectations. But it's just a really fun game. And I know that seems like a silly way to, like, summarize the game, but it's just really fun. And... constantly
that is the way I constantly describe that game. It's just a fun ride.
Junaid?
Yeah, so I think when you get past all the issues leading up to it, that is the first trailer. After that, it's actually a pretty good game. If they just led with the, 2015 trailer, I believe? Yeah, it is kind of weird. Sure, it's like Idol J-pop. You wouldn't really expect that even from just a collaboration between Intelligent Systems and Atlas. Atlas vaguely, sure, Persona 4 Dancing All Night. I don't see how anybody would think Intelligent Systems would get there.
No.
But yeah, I think a fun game is a pretty accurate way to do it. It's actually been a long time since we got an actual proper console Atlas RPG, because I believe the only Atlas game, like, first party of this generation was Catherine, which isn't really an RPG.
And that's not on a Nintendo system.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm just saying,
in general,
I feel like this is more of an Atlas project.
Okay.
With special guest stars Nintendo.
Yeah, pretty much.
But despite the fact that it's called SMTX Fire Emblem, originally, it's actually kind of just feels like a Shin Megami Tensei game with Fire Emblem in it, much the same way that Hyrule Warriors Legends, or just Hyrule Warriors, feels like a Dynasty Warrior game with Zelda in it. But I think they actually made something pretty interesting. They managed to adapt the original SMT systems into something very unique. So I was pretty impressed with it. And the music theme was very unexpected, but surprisingly well done, even if I'm not a fan of the fact that it's sub-only, because I'm a big supporter of dubs. But yeah, surprisingly decent game.
Alright, so we're going to our little review topics here. So we're going to talk about story and characters first. So, initial impressions of those?
Yeah, one thing I think is really interesting, this is really early game spoilers, but the game does pretty good at subverting some cliches. One of the first things that happens is that the main heroine, Tsubasa, her sister disappears in like a prologue kind of section. And in the first chapter of the game, you see a character who's heavily implied to be the sister. So, having played JRPGs, you think, okay, they'll drag on for a chapter and reveal, hey, it is the sister, and then halfway through the game, you'll save her, and then you'll do something else. Instead, immediately when you see her, Tsubasa recognizes her, hey, that's my sister. By the time you're done the first chapter, she's saved. It's done. They didn't drag it on. It could have been some crazy thing, but no, you saved her. Good, move on.
Yeah, I like
really
that too.
Appreciated that. So even though it looks like a cliche JRPG in a lot of ways, it's actually very good how it goes around the story. And it does the same with characters, which we'll get to when we get to characters. After that, though, I can't say the story was that interesting. The idea is it follows Tsubasa through different parts of the entertainment industry, and in that way we get a bit of like her acting, her singing, what else was...
Modeling.
Yeah, the modeling, which is also going to be get into later. But I think it's interesting that they use the way she gets into different industries to explain the different types of things, because it very much wants to introduce us to these different things. I think the target audience isn't necessarily people who are already fans of the idol kind of system, I guess.
The idol industry, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a good job of introducing it, and even in some ways overly praising it, I guess, in some ways, which is, I think, kind of weird at some points. But it's interesting that it's basically just following the one character's journey, even though there's a bunch of more talented people around her.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like this game is sort of its own creature, so to speak. Like you were saying, it feels more like, I've never played S&T, but you're saying it's more like S&T with Fire Emblem elements.
Yes.
But with the idol thing, it is sort of its own, like, the battles are kind of, have this idol theme. It's all about, like, it's not like Paper Mario, which is the only thing that kind of reminds me of, like, it's not like the audience helps you in battle, but it does feel like you're putting on this giant performance.
Oh, for sure.
The battles are, like, they're battles, but also it's all about the spectacle of it.
Yeah, they take place on the stage.
Yeah. I guess we should maybe explain what the actual supernatural part of the story is. The main idea is that there's these things called mirages, which come from another world, and they feast on your performa, which is this power that comes from basically your ability in entertainment. If you're a good actor, good musician, something like that. And they feed on that, we find out later what they actually use it for. So it's that all these people like that are talented are getting targeted by these things. But the main characters manage to team up with some of these mirages, which happen to be Fire Emblem characters,
who have no memories.
Who
have no memories.
Yes, they have no memories, so we don't get to get any of their good personalities or anything. And they basically become JoJo stands for these characters, and they go through fighting the evil mirages and trying to figure out the mystery of what's happening in a very loose Persona 4-ish fashion.
Yeah, that's what I reminded of. I feel like this is the first, like, 2/3 of the game is very Persona 4-ish. Though I know something's happening, need to go and solve this problem, and then later on in the game, then we get it changes, which is actually when the story really ramps up, is near the end of the game, which is kind of weird because you think it may be a halfway point, but no, it's like basically like the last couple chapters.
It does kind of have a similar pacing, but just condensed much better, as opposed to Persona 4's like 80 hours. This took me closer to 40 to 50.
Yeah. And there's me, who I spent way too much time grinding, and they're taking me 120
hours.
I
overgrinded for the final boss. I expected a lot worse.
Yeah, the final boss is actually quite simple for me, but that was because I overleveled. But so yeah, my impression of the story was basically what you said. Like, this is basically Tsubasa's story, and I don't know why we had Itsuki as a character until, like, he wasn't important until, like, late in the game, and just being a foil to interact with other people.
Yeah, he's very much the Atlas main character of the everyman that doesn't really do anything, but is apparently the best. But one thing I thought was interesting in comparison to Minato or Yu in Persona, possibly also the SMT protagonist, he's not actually the best at anything, or even anything, actually. The only thing is he's good at supporting people, and everybody does fall in love with him because of Atlas. But yeah, I thought it was interesting that he didn't seem to take over quite as much. Like, he was very much a background character, and with the whole entertainment industry going on, it's like he was like backup vocalist at one point, an extra in like an acting section. Like, he's never like, I'm the hero, the way you would be like, yes, I can do everything. And I really like that. It reminded me in a way kind of Titus in Final Fantasy X, in that he was the character you controlled, but he was not the character the story was about.
And then so we can move into characters. So we talked about like basic game being about Tsubasa, but there are other side characters. It's 7 characters in the game, and you unlock them all as you progress through the story. Usually one at the end of every chapter, which is a nice way, basically just
pretty good pacing of them.
Yeah, it's a nice way of rewarding you at the end of a chapter. It's like, here's this new character you can use now, and each of them has their own side stories. So progress through the side stories really change the characters.
For sure. Eleonora is probably the best example of that, because she comes off as an extremely typical Zundir type when she joins you. But it's through her various side stories, and I'd say more so through other people's side stories, where she plays a supporting role, where her character really grows into more than Hollywood, which is all we understand because it's subbed. But yeah, I think they do I think they did a really good job of choosing characters that represent different like parts of the entertainment industry. For example, we have Toma, who is objectively the best character. He's an actor in like Sentai shows, like he's trying to get into that. We have characters that are more into singing, like Kiria, the character we all thought was going to be Lin, but wasn't. Mamori's interesting
She's got the
because
cooking show.
yeah, she's got the cooking show.
Microwaving,
She's,
as if that's a cooking show.
I think it's interesting because her
That's the
thing
joke,
is that
though.
she's already in the entertainment industry, but not in the part she wants to be. So it's about trying to transition, and also the kind of child star angle. And then we've got like the really big name actor, which is Yashiro, but he's also a really good singer. And he's kind of more the typical Atlas protagonist who's good at everything, except that he's an asshole. So I guess he's the Persona 3 protagonist. But I think they did a pretty good job. Even the supporting characters were kind of interesting. One character I was very disappointed in was Barry Goodman, because I had a lot of hopes for this guy. He literally just looks like Jack Black. But the idea is he used to be in like a death metal band, but he became obsessed with Japanese culture. He's basically supposed to be a weeaboo that moved to Japan. And now he like helps idols with making music and stuff.
Because, you know, that's what Westerners are like.
Yeah, and yeah, of course they'll use it as a joke character. I know Japan likes to make fun of other cultures. Just look at Jam making fun of like China and Guilty Gear. But I think they could have done something very interesting with this character, but instead they gave him every negative trait they could think of, which is that when he's a weeaboo, he goes extreme into it. When he goes into like military instructor, he's not someone you can like understand why he's doing this. Just seems kind of overly mean. Even when he gets in a battle at one point in a side story, he turns out to be a coward. And then he's obsessed over Mamori, who's the child star. And it's kind of treated as a joke. Perhaps this is more normal within Japanese culture. Again, we're not the main target market, but I found that insanely creepy. Even if he wasn't into her like that, it was just a bit much. But yeah, in the end, there's no positive traits in Barry, and I'm very disappointed about that. But Maiko and Tiki were done pretty well. I'm very confused about Maiko's situation regarding Mirages, because it's explained for Barry, and Tiki is a Mirage. I know Maiko was originally supposed to be a party member, according to some news from like betas or something. And rumor has it she was supposed to be a dancer, but that's all people got. So if they change that, it's still kind of curious what the in-universe reason is for why she doesn't have a Mirage, because she really should. She's the like... She used to be like a big model. She's like in charge of the Fortuna agency. So I really wish they touched on that a little bit more.
But one thing you both were saying about characters was, I think Junaid already made his comment that the Fire Emblem characters, you know, they're there, like they're the partners of the heroes.
Yeah,
I don't think
the
you actually said that. Yeah, sorry, you did say that. But and they sort of have, I guess, to me, like they're shades of their characters from the games. Like you can see some aspects, but like,
yeah, like Crom will go, "Oh gods."
Okay.
Like, and that's really like you'll be like, I get that reference.
And Tharj is like hiding like a kind of
Yeah,
stalker.
and Sheeta will always be like, yes, I should confess to character I will not mention that is obviously Marth. And Varian is very much in his personality. I think he probably was adapted the best.
Yeah, Varian was exactly like he was in Awakening.
Yeah.
It's
And then Drog was
For better or
interesting
worse.
because he didn't have a strong personality in Shadow Dragon. Even though he was in the OVA because he's one of the first characters, but they kind of just made up his personality to me. But he was kind of also the big brother to the Archer in that game, so...
I mean, I guess for me, I feel like at least for the Fire Emblem characters, again, not the reason why you're playing the game, I feel like they did their job, but, you know, again, we said like, they have no memory, so we're not going to get, at least at the beginning of the game, you're not going to get the full range of their character types, and, again, I'm the only one in this episode who hasn't beaten the game fully, so maybe by the end, like I'll get that one cut scene at the end. Well, that's good.
The same reaction.
If I have to be honest, I think they could have made this literally just an Atlas game, no Fire Emblem elements, and I would have enjoyed it like 95% the same.
Well, they wanted sales. They thought, oh, the Fire Emblem is really popular. Let's hopefully all the Fire Emblem.
Yeah, and I'm sure that did help with sales even within the Japan market, because I'm not sure how well they would have taken an Atlas-developed idle game. But I think it was kind of unnecessary, and I say that as someone who considers Fire Emblem his favorite series, so yeah.
I mean, I'll also say this about characters, that because they didn't dub it, and they kept Japanese voices, and because this is really also a game, not just about anything, but also like Japanese culture and like pop culture, and like really a game, I don't think they're really kind of showing it all off in a way, for the most part. So I like that, you know, they had these really nice fabulous outfits, and I thought like the voice acting was really good, and just just the way the interactive characters you were saying in the cutscenes, I just thought, even if they're not the best characters in my opinion, I just thought because of the way this is, obviously a very Japanese game, so to speak, I thought it really added to them. Like, I liked how their costumes sometimes changed after each chapter, and it was like, oh, it's a hat.
Yeah, they just have, like, regular casual clothes.
That's what I expect them to wear, and, like, some of them...
Which is a very Atlas thing to do. Their school uniforms change over time. If you hang out with characters on the weekends, they have different outfits.
You have some, like, spring clothes or summer clothes.
Or, another part was, in this game, they use the Wii gamepad as pretty much it's supposed to get your cell phone, so you're texting. And I remember this probably one of the best games I've seen was like, oh, they actually text like real teenagers.
Yeah.
Not this save the world period.
That's localized incredibly well, I would say. There's like a whole scene about Tsubasa trying to track down like a cat. And it turns out to be like a raccoon. But just the way like it's worded and everything, it really feels like an actual teenager.
Using smileys
and like stuff. She does like the ORZ, like the... emoticon with like the guy on his head on the floor.
Like I usually I get bored of that kind of text. Like but I'm like, oh, I actually read it because like, it's funny, it's entertaining. Like it feels like, even though you can't text back yourself, but it feels like you're actually talking into a real like teenager. And I was really impressed with that.
And more than other Atlas games, I appreciate that they build the character relationships between each other instead of just the player character. Especially a lot of the final side stories for most characters have to do with how they get along, like Yashiro and Eleonora, how they get along, or things like that. That's also because duets get introduced later, so they needed to make a story way that works in battle. But I really appreciated that, because that disappointed me in the Persona games. Like, we had how Yukari and Mitsuru became like friends later in Persona 3, but you didn't really get any interactions between like Junpei and Akihiko or something. So it's nice to be able to see that, and I hope that sets a precedent for Persona 5. I know that's not a Nintendo game, but I'm just saying.
Probably a little late, but maybe we'll see some more of that in the future Persona or SMT if they decide to go.
I'd also like to mention Tsubasa is the first Moe character I actually like, so good job, Atlas. Good job.
Alright, so now that we talked about the story characters, let's move into the gameplay, which for me is the best part of this game. Easily. So it's got one of the best battle RPG systems I've ever played. So, the way, if you play SMT or Persona, you know how this works, that every enemy has a specific weakness. You target that weakness and you get like other bonuses based on that weakness. In this game, you can chain what are called session attacks, so every single member of your party will be able to jump in and attack the enemy, which is almost a requirement for this whole game, because if you don't do that, then you just get destroyed. And so that, even on normal, this game could be a little bit challenging if you'd
have to grind.
Oh, for sure. It depends on your skill setup. I like that there are so many different skills you can learn. You learn them through weapons in a very like Final Fantasy Tactics kind of way. So you can actually have very different characters from like probably me and Nathan have our characters set up very differently.
Yeah.
And you also choose specifically what session skills they get. Like maybe I have a character that has like a follow-up from an ice attack, but if Nathan's character didn't have that, but they had a follow-up from fire, then like his entire session setup could look different. Especially later in the game, you get a skill called Open Session, which allows characters who aren't in your active party to join in on sessions. So you'll do like crazy like 7-hit combos.
And then if
you get like a duet, then you get another one. If you get another duet, very much I would say like Final Fantasy XII's quickening system.
They really build up, like keep adding new parts. And I'll just say one of the things I really liked about this game is that I generally hate grinding in RPGs. I think it's like annoying and tedious, and I really like this game that it rewards you constantly. Like between skill upgrades, as you were saying, and
like
weapons,
stage rank with like a new passive skill unlocked.
It seemed like every other battle I was getting a little reward,
and
I really like that because most RPGs you get nothing. You're just like,
here's some money, here's
some money, and you're just grinding. But this game, I thought it's worth it because at least you're getting something. Like, I want to get the next weapon. I want to get the stage rank or something.
Yeah, and it's not really the type of game where you need to grind. Again, the only time I grinded was right before the final boss, and that turned out to be unnecessary. I am a bit disappointed that you earn money in such a huge amount that it's never an issue.
No, it's never.
Is it
just by maximum.
Is that the only thing?
No,
you can buy all the costumes and still have an overflow of money.
So at this point, I'm 140 hours in, mind you. But,
jeez.
But I have 20 million yen, and I've bought almost every single costume in the game.
I bought every costume, even,
And I was like, what do I do with all this money I have? I
think it's interesting that all the consumable items have caps of not 99, but usually smaller caps, like 5, 10, 20.
Yeah.
Because that makes, even though, yes, in theory, you could buy 1 million of these, you only have a certain amount.
Yeah.
Like you can buy items like a Rakukaja stone to give your whole party a defense buff, but you can only carry like 6. So it's not just you can use it in every battle. You still have to be smart about it, even if you could afford, in theory, money-wise, to use it every battle.
And I like how just a lot of things built up, as you guys were saying, and also even like things like the side stories, for example, which they're kind of interesting about characters. But I like how you get rewarded with a little like
always get
artistic
something
cutscene,
quite
so to
big,
speak,
yes.
where a character will change costume and then suddenly do a little performance mid battle and just do additional damage. I mean, it's nothing, I guess, amazing, revolutionary, but just a nice little touch. To bring the cutscene in and show, okay, you get a little bonus, and also just makes the battles more flashy. And they're random. You can't trigger them.
I mean, they're vaguely
performances,
skill based, and I think if your luck is higher, they probably activate more.
But it's honestly neat, like all kind of neat little things
Yes,
with
for
the
sure,
battle
yeah.
system to make it more interesting and
even-
flashy.
Yeah, even beyond the battles, I really appreciate the dungeons, because if there's one problem I have with other Atlas games, the dungeons are terribly boring. Especially in Persona 3 and 4, they're just different corridors.
Yeah.
But every dungeon has some kind of theme to it. If you watch the initial E3 trailer, you're probably familiar with the dresses, where the sleeves can go up to different floors, and you have to use switches to change them. So there's things like that.
Blizzard Shibuya has the one with the cameras, so you can't stop.
Yeah, the cameras.
Yeah.
That was very interesting. There's always something. It's not all.
Each
It's not
dungeon has
just
their own
walk
thing.
through, get to the end.
Yeah, I thought the dungeons were really
Yeah.
interesting. I again don't play a lot of RPGs, but I was kind of just surprised that they're actually pretty creative, and as you guys said, they focus on a theme, and they have some puzzle elements as well. But yeah, I mean, and quite colorful. Usually, like I thought the presentation of dungeons, and we can talk about this after, was really well done in this game. So again, just. It's pleasure, and another reason why grinding goes in that bag is like, oh, I actually want to explore this. It's actually kind of interesting. Like the world they made is generally interesting and fun to play in.
I also appreciate that enemies spawn on the map, so you can avoid them.
Oh, and I also appreciate how when you hit an enemy on the map, you don't automatically go into battle.
Oh
with them.
yes, you can just be like, stop chasing me, screw you, and then go around them.
Yeah, you just
Except with savage enemies, oh jeez.
Oh, savage enemies are
I love that they scale with you, because even
Yeah.
if you go to an old dungeon to grab something, if a savage enemy comes, you're screwed. Like, put on your A game.
yeah.
That kind of reminds me, I guess, of the Reaper. Except the Reaper will almost always kill you in Persona 3.
Yeah. They scale up to a certain point, because they're getting to a certain point, and they have a chapter where the enemies would scale up to a certain point. Then they would.
I think it's to
scale up with you.
Itsuki's level.
No, it's I think it's whoever's highest, but
Okay, well,
There's some
I imagine
point, like-
that's Itsuki, because you
like-
can never take him out of your party, which
Yeah.
I don't like. Bad Atlas.
that one.
Yeah,
is
that's annoying.
It's like, well, what if there's a bunch of lance enemies? I don't want Itsuki in my party.
Yeah, and what if you need Yashiro for something as well? So now you've got 2 sword users?
Or the
Yeah.
fact that he's like 10 levels ahead of your entire party.
Oh, that's really frustrating, yes.
Yeah. He ends up being really overpowered by the end of the game, and then everyone else is like, oh, I'm like 5 levels under Itsuki.
Yeah, I mean, that was the only time I read the grind was against the
Yeah,
bosses.
like the one boss that keeps changing elements. I hate that boss type.
Excellus.
But that's the
Yeah.
worst in this game, where you need to exploit elements because of the session system.
Alright, so let's move into a nice graphics and presentation. So, what are initial impressions of those guys?
I was surprised by the quality of the cutscenes. I don't know what I was expecting, but I was like, oh wow, these are some really nice cutscenes, and there were so many of them. And again, I guess it's idols, so they better have some good music videos, but they were really well done. I was just pleasantly surprised. Maybe I'm just used to my, Pikmin videos or Mario going, yay, Peach, okay, I saved you.
Yeah.
And that's all you get. But here's some really interesting music videos, and with the characters, and sometimes the side stories had some like nice videos too. So I really liked that, because they're putting the money where it should be. Like it's a game of idols, it should have good music videos.
It should be flashy, it should be
And I thought visually it looked great. Like it's colorful, bright.
Outfits.
Yes, costumes were good. I thought the world was interesting to look around. Again, embracing that this is a very Japanese game. So yeah, I thought it looked great. It sounded great. I didn't have any
Oh, the
issues.
sound was... I was really surprised how much I liked the music. Like, I know they talked about it so much going into it, but it was still so Japanese focused. All the voice actors know how to sing. So I'm like, okay, whatever, I don't care. But I actually really like a lot of these songs.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that. And having good music in a music-centered game is kind of key.
Yeah.
So again, good job there, guys.
Yeah, soundtrack was really good.
Yeah.
Like those music videos, I'm like kind of like you forget I almost forget I was playing a game. Like, wow, this is like really mesmerizing and just like interesting, and
And because of the ad-libs and duet performances, you get to hear like bites of them quite often, which is nice. Strangely...
Like the cola commercial.
Yeah, I thought it was strange that reincarnation is basically the main theme,
Of the
but
game.
you never hear it.
Never hear it outside
Yeah,
the
because
opening cutscene
there's no
and-
ad-lib for it because that's Labyrinth, and there's
Yeah.
no duo for it because it's just Kyria.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of unusual. But, actually, I don't want to touch on the Itsuki thing. Okay, yeah.
Alright, so was I going to move to the sound now? Because
Yeah.
Oh, I was kind of talking about
we were
that
talking about
already.
sound, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
But well, not much really talk about graphics presentation. The only other
It's
mentions.
Wii U. I guess it's fine. I have a PS4. I'm sorry.
I think it's one of the better looking games in the Wii U.
Yeah, for a Wii U.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only kind of thing I have the issue with the instant is that if you have too many enemies on screen, it lags. I remember
Oh yeah,
there's one-
especially when you're doing like a session
Yeah.
and there's like 6 enemies, you actually see it slow down.
Yeah, or when Tsubasa does her fly your wind, her
Oh,
ad-lib-
that slows
her
it down a
ad-lib-
lot, too?
Her ad-lib slows down
Oh.
there's a lot of enemies. And then I remember there's one boss battle in particular where the whole thing was a slideshow, and that was really bad.
Ooh.
I can't remember which boss that was, but I was just like, wow, this is really bad. But other than that,
Speaking of
nice.
Tsubasa's flyer winds, and a particular outfit she wears.
Oh, and how it's all just white and
Yeah, so the game had a very
screen.
interesting approach to censorship and localization. I think the biggest issue was it was kind of inconsistent about what it was trying to say.
Yeah.
The example of Fly My Wind, the outfit is supposed to be like a wedding dress. A little bit revealing, there's like a little cleavage and stuff. And they changed that in the Western version so that she's wearing white body paint, like she's the Joker or something.
Yeah.
The weird
really bad.
Thing is, her normal Mirage outfit, which is her Pegasus Knight outfit, is more revealing, and that was unchanged. As well as her initial Idol outfit, the Feel outfit is also, it was slightly changed, but it's still more revealing. So I'm not really sure what they were trying to do when they were, like, it wasn't consistent. If everything was, like, to the same level of censorship, okay.
Yeah.
But this is just kind of like, oh wait, what was that? Let's change that quickly, and then they just kind of moved on.
The other thing I was going to mention was they got rid of the Hot Springs DLC while the characters are in swimsuits, but then we have Tsubasa's ad-lib performance where she's in a bikini. So
Yeah,
it's
so
just like, why
that's-
wasn't this changed?
I don't really care that they took that out, because if that was something in the game and they took it out, then I'd be mad. Sure, they took out content, but this was paid. If you made it available to us, sure, I wouldn't buy it. That's why I don't really care. But since it's just paid DLC, I couldn't care less, really.
It's just kind of odd that this censorship
Yeah,
is just
they did a good job of not doing anything creepy with Mamoru, which I very much appreciate, because I was kind of worried going into that. Mine is Barry, because Barry's so bad.
Alright, so let's move into the sound. So we talked about the voice acting earlier.
Well, maybe hit up the second dungeon, like the main thing they censored, which I think
Oh,
they
yeah, the
did
second dungeon
incorrectly.
Oh yeah, so the second dungeon was basically you had to go rescue Maiko, but the whole dungeon was basically this photographer. He's a modeling photographer, so he takes a lot of pictures of girls. It was supposed to be bikinis, but it ended up being like
Sundresses.
blazers and some weird dresses thing.
Yeah.
That was really weird.
The big thing is, so it's supposed to be more into like the gravure idol sense, which is more, I guess, like sexy models instead of cute, which is more what most of the idol stuff is. But the fact that they change it to normal modeling from that very much changes the tone of the dungeon, because the idea is the photographer basically kidnaps these women so he can take the perfect pictures of them. Comparing, hey, I'm going to take the perfect pictures of these girls in whatever regular clothes versus they're in like swimsuits, I'm famous for taking sexy pictures. That becomes a way creepier thing, and that very much changes Tsubasa's tone of what she learns. But what Tsubasa learns is kind of worrying in the original version, which is that she should be alright with this, and she should just like accept like that this is fine. And I don't really agree with that version that they did in the original Japanese. But this is the main thing that I think was heavily changed based on the censorship, and I don't really see why, because it doesn't seem like it touches on something that wouldn't work in a T-rated game.
Well, that's one of the things I was thinking about was it's a teen-rated game, which and I was thinking about like the only other game I could think of in terms of like sexualized, like Bayonetta was saying, which is M-rated.
Yes.
And that's fine. It's M-rated. You don't have to censor anything. But this is teen, and one thing I was like thinking about was, teen can mean someone who's like 12 or 13, right?
Yeah.
Or someone who's 17. And so there's a big difference between 12 and 17, in my opinion. And like this game has, I think, like you're talking about like this dungeon which could have been filled with like these sexualized images of girls, and I still think that's kind of creepy as a dungeon. But I don't know. I mean, I do think some of the content was changed because someone who's 12 could buy this game, also someone who's 17, and I don't know necessarily if some of the things they cut they don't want a 12-year-old to see.
I guess I have a different impression of what I assume 12-year-olds have already seen, based on when I was 12. So I think that's kind of weird, especially considering the stuff that is kept in. Again, like some of the idol uniforms and stuff. So I think their explanation was they wanted it to hit a more mainstream audience, but look at the rest of the game. You're not going to get a mainstream audience, Atlas.
But if they wanted to really like leave it alone, they could have just made it. If they made it M and said, okay, we'll leave everything in. Who's to say that?
I don't even think they needed to make it M to leave everything in, is what I mean.
That's what I was talking about to Mike. I was like, maybe the reason why it's T is because they took out they changed Chapter 2 so much, but I think it would have been a range even with...
Yeah, like I'm not saying that's necessarily better, but I'm saying that changes the original intent very heavily.
Mm-hmm, it does.
And I think in general that's generally a negative if you can avoid it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But, I mean, I most of the game is intact, so to speak. Like, it's not, I mean, I don't think, except for the second chapter, really, the game hasn't majorly changed. You can't, I mean, you were saying, for like a lot of people were actually quite upset with these changes, as if, like, the game's been ruined. I'm like, no, it hasn't. Don't tell me the final product now is impure because a few bathing suits were taken out.
No, now it's less impure. That's the problem.
And now some people don't like that, and it probably did impact sales just a bit. Like, I still can't see anyone mainstream just getting this game, so I'd say just appeal to the target audience who don't mind that or would prefer if everything was uncensored. For that. All right, so I guess we'll move to do our final thoughts on it. So, what do you guys? Well, you haven't finished the game yet, but you have final thoughts on what you've seen so far?
Yeah, I can give generally final thoughts, and as in, it's a very enjoyable game. Pleasantly, it's probably one of the best games on the Wii U. Honestly, just because as an RPG, I think it does a lot of different things. I think it keeps things fun and fresh. I think the battle system is really fun. I think the tone or the sort of main story around the idols, I think, is different and interesting. I think the way it's brought into an RPG, I think it just makes it a different game and just something new and fresh. And the Wii doesn't have a lot of RPGs, so really, it doesn't really have a lot of competition. But yeah, but I mean, it's a good game, and I think it's surprisingly good. I think we all sort of touched upon that. Who knows what this match these two series and like all the issues did, and it's like, the final product, hey, it's pretty good. So I'm happy with the purchase.
Yeah, I'd say the main takeaway for me is I'm really excited for Persona 5 now if they can do this like with these series. But yeah, it was really good. I guess I'll keep using the word surprised, but surprised how good the music is. I really love the idea that it's somewhat shorter compared to a typical Atlas JRPG. And I think because of that explains why we kept getting stuff like new mechanics or new like skills, why it kept rewarding you. So it didn't really have like a long period where you're kind of bored or just like going through chargers or something. So I really appreciated that. So it was fun from start to finish. The story could definitely have been better given it's an Atlas game, but I think the characters were done quite well, even if I would have liked that extra time to explore them. But I like what we got. I don't have any complaints, really. Yeah.
Alright, so my final thoughts is this is the most fun thing I've had with RPG in quite a while. I can't remember the last RPG where I was like constantly playing this game. I had like a few days off when I first got this game, and I was just 14, 15, 16 hours of this game straight. Like I just kept my gamepad, just kept playing it.
Oh, I hate the gamepad's battery life.
Yeah, I know.
I'm so glad I'm not going to touch the Wii U until Zelda.
Yeah, so story, as we all mentioned, not the best. But even with that, I even forgot sometimes what was I fighting this fight for again? Like, what was the purpose here? But the gameplay makes up for that, and the battles just never got boring for me. Like this because of how flashy that animation was, and just how deep the battle system was. It just kept you coming back for more, even if you think that you don't want to. But it's just like, no, it doesn't show you more flashy stuff. Let's go, and. Yeah, the music voice acting was really good, and that's about it. It's really fun RPG. Everybody should be playing it.
Well, maybe if more people bought Wii U's.
when people bought Wii U's.
Yeah,
and
I think that's the major weakness of the system. It's on the Wii U.
And yeah, we'll get to
Port to NX.
Yeah, let's hope
actually
so.
backwards compatible.
I guess we'll see about that. But now for something completely different, because now we're going to review a game on a 3DS, Zero Time Dilemma. So Zero Time Dilemma is the third and final game in the Zero Escape trilogy, written and directed by Kotaro Uchikoshi. It is an M-rated visual novel with horror and puzzle elements. The series first started with 999 on the DS in 2009, followed by Virtue's Last Reward on the 3DS in 2012. Zero Time Dilemma is the second game chronologically set between the other two games. Before we begin, I want to give a spoiler warning. It's very difficult to discuss this game without spoilers, so after us, the panelists, giving some general thoughts, we'll then move into spoilers. I will remind you before we begin. And one thing I want to say before we begin is, Candice, you actually gave me 999 about 4 years ago, because I was going through my library, and 999 was the first game I actually played on my 3DS.
Oh, really?
So you lent me the game about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago.
Wow.
And I was just thinking about that because this series was, I think, the game that was very passed by mouth, so to speak. Because you introduced quite a few people to this series, because it wasn't really well known, I think. It wasn't, I guess, something on the internet.
It was tough to find when I bought it. Like, it was sold out everywhere, and when I bought it, the EB Games guy was like, "Oh wow, you found a copy. Good job."
Mm-hmm. So I feel like you know, there are a lot of people like you who said, "You gotta play this game. You gotta play this game."
Yeah, actually, I got this game from one of my other friends, so you can credit her for that.
And yeah, and then this game is kind of unique on the 3DS, kind of being an M-rated game, and also being sort of a visual novel with these sort of horror and puzzle elements. It really is its own thing. And I guess it has sort of gained popularity. I mean, we didn't think the third game was going to get made because the director was like, not enough sales after the second game. Hope the third one comes out. Maybe not.
You know, he says that, but at the same time, when with the second game you rebrand the series as Zero Escape, it implied to me like he was planning a third one even then. Mm-hmm. Because I don't think you would rename the first one as part of the series if you were only going to make two.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. And after replaying the second one, I'm like, well, it's clear that I did replay like a bit of the second one right before a couple of days ago, and I'm like, wow, it's pretty clear that the third one was probably, as you said, you know, probably already on paper, if not by the time the second one came out. So let's start with just general thoughts on Zero Time Dilemma, and we're gonna go with Geoff because he's the most recent of us who played it, so you'll have the freshest.
So I also had the unfortunate pleasure to not play it on a Nintendo system, and part of me regrets that because I was playing it on the PlayStation TV, and I think 3DS might have been a little bit more user friendly, but I'll get into that later on in the discussion. But on the PS TV, it was also delayed, so I was super excited for it. It didn't really come out for a week, and then I finally got it, and at that point I had other things going on. Mm-hmm. When I actually did get to start playing it, I was initially very happy, because I liked the animation to some degree. As the game went on, like even as recently as yesterday, it kind of had this weird reminding me of the first Sonic Adventures for the Dreamcast, and its very robotic puppet animations that are really dumb, but in a sort of endearing way in some situations, like the way the walking and running cycles.
Oh man, the running!
It's kind of adorable, like looking back on it, like it's really, it has like nostalgia, even though it's a game that was built like a year ago. Mm-hmm.
That's kind of not good.
It was the continuation of the previous two games. Like you say, it was chronologically second. It's also kind of chronologically last.
Oh yes, yeah.
And a lot of stuff happens. A lot of stuff starts in this game, which we'll get into. A lot of stuff starts in this game. Like, this is the origin point for the game, really. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was not a big fan of the gameplay in this game. It's my biggest complaint.
That's a big one.
Yeah, it's a big one. Believe it or not, like... And it was weird. Like, going into it, I was like... Because the developer was saying people were a little frustrated with the visual novel aspect, like having to scroll through text, so I decided why not have everything being cutscenes to make it more dramatic and interesting. And I'm like, that sounds cool. Yeah, cutscenes are fun. I love cutscenes. This is going to be great. So I'm playing it for the first little while. It took me a while to figure out you could skip the dialogue.
Very important.
Because I thought you couldn't because it was cutscenes, but the cutscenes are sort of built in a weird way that they're basically just like visual novel scenes. They just have animation in them. But I'm like, oh boy, cutscenes. And at the beginning, yeah, I like the cutscenes better than the visual novel thing. But as the game went on, I guess learning how to skip did help things, but it still seemed a little bit like, oh, this is kind of the same thing as the visual novel reading, but less good. I don't know.
So you don't sound very satisfied with the final product.
See, that's the weird thing. Like, I'm impressed by it. Like, I think the presentation is fairly good. There's a lot of content sort of in there. Although I think there might be less. Like, I'm not big on the gameplay, but I think there might be less puzzles than the last few games. Despite the fact that it's new and polished, so that's weird. But it still feels like there's a lot of content. I like the second one the best, I'm sorry.
So do I. But I know Candice likes the first one the best.
I do. Yeah, I hate this game, honestly. It's not the worst game I've ever played, but in the trilogy, this is definitely the worst game.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Zero Time Dilemma suffers from the whole less is more thing, where they put too much in and they should have cut back. Like, they put in all this all the gory elements, and like I like that sort of to some extent, but when you put it in all the time, it just becomes like a hammy horror movie.
I couldn't treat it seriously.
Yeah, no, and especially with the animations, like it just made it so corny. Like they're, whenever they were getting blown up or something, and they were like,
the neck.
yeah, that was so weird.
Or the acid.
Oh yeah, that was just like the shaking of their heads, and it's just, I don't know, it was just so bad. Like the animation was bad, the gameplay was really annoying. I heard there was a problem with like lip syncing type stuff. I didn't notice that so much.
Sometimes.
Okay.
It was very off many times.
I did not really care for the cutscenes. They were way too long. I didn't pay for a movie.
We're gonna have a good conversation on that.
Yeah, it's just like there's just too many things that I just don't understand. What were they thinking when they put all this stuff in? Was it for saving money? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to a few people about this game, and sort of some of my thoughts are, this is a game that I would give like a 7.8 or 7.7 out of 10, and some of my thoughts are, this is still to me better than most games I've played. Like, it's still, well, like, let me, to me it's like, it's more interesting. I still want to finish the game. I ain't tired of it necessarily.
Really?
But, I mean, I still thought, like, it's still an interesting game to play. Like, I'm not going to say it's boring or, but compared to the other two, by far, it's way worse than the first two.
If this was the first in the series, I think I would have been super impressed. Like, I know that doesn't make much sense because this is the one with full animation and everything. But, like, if this was, like, the first time experiencing the weird, like, escape game puzzle stuff, I think it would be like, oh, that's awesome. But, unfortunately, like, I think, like, maybe half or less of the puzzles are actually escape room simulator things. Most of them are just solve the plot piece.
No, I mean, I think that brings us to a good point of getting into this discussion is this is a game where, I mean, a few things going on. Where one, we're both saying it's chronologically second, but it's a third game being made, and you said it has technically parts of being the first game
or a prequel. Like, it's a prequel to both 999 and Zero Time Dilemma in a lot, and Virtue's Last Reward in a lot of ways.
So that's one thing they had to contend with. And also, I know the director was saying, well, we want this to appeal more to Western audiences, so we're gonna cut down kind of the visual novel stuff and have these cutscenes. I will say, I played a bit of, again, Virtual Last Reward. There was way more dialogue that game. Like, I was going to the ending, like, there's a lot of dialogue, like pressing egg.
Yeah.
And that's when they have these cutscenes in it. And I do think, Geoff, you're saying, it is kind of the third game of the series, and I'm not going to say it got a little tired, but it's like, what are you going to do to impress now? We had 2 games, we know kind of what to expect, as you were saying, what can you throw at us? And maybe that's, again, going what Candice was saying, is like, this is where we have the kind of intensified gore, that, they're, like, they really, I don't want to say they pushed the M rating, but they definitely,
they did.
Compared
They
to
did.
999 or Versace War, they definitely, we're going to have it all there.
You don't get stabbed in the neck in even a lot of other M-rated games.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was for violence and for like a visual novel. It was kind of weirdly gory.
Mm-hmm.
You got the ripping out the heart thing, which I'm surprised they didn't actually show. Like, considering the game, I was like, oh.
Yeah,
okay,
I kind
good
of
for
expected
you.
them
I actually thought they were
to
going to show
do
it too. Like, oh god, they're going to show that.
And they didn't actually show people being melted by acid. Like, there was the screams, which was scary, but
And
like
there was like the puddles of
Yeah.
flesh left, which was still
Yeah.
pretty bad, but
So, yeah, I mean, and certainly, I think maybe they're like, okay, we got to go for broke, and maybe, and I think this is actually something I talked to. Is like, well, maybe that's why they brought some certain controversial story elements. It's like, well, it's the third game, let's throw it all in there.
I'm sure we'll get into that in characters.
Yeah, and sort of one more thing was one thing I was telling Candice, like, this felt like Zero Escape All Stars edition, like Hunger Games, that bring back people from the first 2
That's
games.
the thing. Like, when I was first, like, even just researching this game, I looked on like their official website at the 3 teams, and you had Team Game 1, Team Game 2, and then who cares?
Exactly.
And then initially playing the game, it's like, oh, I guess these characters, at least every team had one character that didn't seem to fit. And I'm like, okay, I guess, it's just a coincidence that they're on the same team. No, it's still team first game, second game, third game. Even though they trained thought not at the beginning.
And we're just going to go into spoilers.
Oh, no, yeah, sorry.
If we weren't going in like 2 minutes ago, we're going to spoilers.
Yes, very much so.
I think, and there's so many things here, but let's just start with the story overall and satisfaction of them trying to tie everything together and what they do and the mysteries, because I think this is kind of thing that even bothered me one of the most was I thought this was such a weak story and just like I thought like I'm just gonna throw it there, like, Zero was terrible in this game.
oh my god, yes.
Like so because the first 2
Who's
games
the worst Zero?
Delta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the worst Zero.
Yeah, by far. And I was telling Candice, the thing that I know most was the reveal of him. It's like, he was there the whole time. And no one noticed.
And yeah, just the kid to go to the creepy wheelchair guy.
Yeah, no one remembered the 10 participants. Like, what?
And like, it was really BS that you call Sean Q on the title screen, and you're calling Sean Q for like all the promotional material, and it's just, he was Sean the whole time. What?
Yeah, that's bullshit.
No, like that's what they tried to do. It was them trying to do the Sigma thing from the last game, but failing. That was dumb.
I mean, I think the Delta thing really made me,
I thought you just a mute guy who couldn't talk or mute, talk or move or do anything.
no one noticed the guy was
And
falling.
they don't really make a reference to it in one sentence, and no one would ever catch that.
Yeah.
I hate the idea of throwing in a character and being like, oh look, I was Zero, but we never mentioned it. Like, because then you can't guess all. You can't think, oh, maybe it's this person.
Yeah, because
That
that's
made
half
the second
fun.
game so much fun.
Yeah.
And I think, and then, as you said, part of it was like these elements from like Time Machine.
Ooh,
Oh god.
And
And they brought it up again, like, oh yes, these magical alien cards will protect us from the poison. Well, okay, more about these aliens. And Zero's like, oh yes, the aliens. When I lived in Germany in the 1900s, we discovered aliens. And it's like, what are you talking about?
I mean, in the sense that they said we don't want to do the second game, didn't just repeat it in terms of the.
Then actually go for broke and have aliens.
But I'm just like, it was so ridiculous, this alien time machine thing. Another one of them was like, well, what, Gabe? What are you trying to do?
They didn't need.
No.
They didn't. There's enough lore in the series to just add more time travel thing. Like, I think I would have preferred certain people have the ability to, in certain cases, get themselves back in time. Like,
Yeah, I would have preferred that because it seems more in line with the actual story. Whereas, where do the aliens go in any of the other games? Come on.
Alice. Come on.
No.
or all ice.
Oh yeah. But I mean, and I thought the overall writing was particularly weaker in this game. One thing I was telling Candice was like, I just hated a lot of characters. One thing,
the characters are a separate thing. We should try to.
well, I think writing story. I
Yeah.
think the writing one is tight. There is kind of these I mean, all the Zero's game can kind of throw things at you, because, that's the whole point. Oh, mystery, and this happened. You're like, oh no, but I felt this game just like, we didn't deserve certain things,
They threw things at your face. Like, in the previous game, it was like you play for, like, just say 4 hours, and then all of a sudden one character, like, Myoji would be like, let me tell you the story. It's a parallel to, like, what's happened here. What do you think, main character? And character's like, oh, I don't really get it. This game, by the other hand, is like, oh yeah, that's just like that philosophical problem that we all know, right, friend? That's right, and that reminds me of this other philosophical problem. Oh yeah, I guess it is more like that one. And, like, it knows all these, like, crazy, like,
Yeah, it's weird.
philosophy and psychology experiments for some reason.
Dora the Explorer.
But for, master students or something.
Yeah, so I didn't think being was very this game. I think again part of it was they're trying to link all these things together. And I one thing I was telling Candice, like, I don't think he planned this as a trilogy. I think 9 was his own game, and I guess it did well. And I was like, okay, we're gonna make 3. It's clear the Reward is connected to it. One of the only storylines I liked in this was the connection between Zero, like showing how Virtual Last Reward happened. I thought that was the only like ending in terms of the story I liked.
I sort of did like all the stories kind of connecting, just, like, if this is going to be the last one, which, like, if we continue to go in the direction, I kind of hope it is, just to keep, like, a fairly solid trilogy, I still think. But I did kind of like, that was probably my favorite about the story, that they did manage to pretty much everything, and pretty much everyone, except Eric, who cares, he's and an idiot. What the
He's
hell?
just gonna having a temper tantrum.
But okay, we'll get to him later. But I guess we're getting into him now. I liked that they connected, as much as I hated what was Murder Lady's name.
Yeah.
I like that they connected Murder to connected to Akane, which connected to Junpei, which connected to Sean, which connected to Delta, which connected sort of Phi, which connected to Back in Time, and not Luna, Diana, which connected to Luna, which connects to also Akane, connects to Kevin, which connects question mark. Carlos exists.
I'm a firefighter.
There's a dog. It seems like it's going to be important, but not. But anyways, so I like they connected all of those things just from like okay, if this track's going into a fire, I at least want to see everything come together into a symphony, and it did. So it paid off for me. The Luna thing was really obvious, but with characters, we should save that.
Yeah. Do you have any other comments? I mean, much story, but I know you're not happy.
No, it's just bad.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's just... I'm not sorry. It's bad.
Yeah, and I think, again, part of it was, like, 999, I think we were sort of talking about this, 999 is sort of a straight-up mystery. You don't really get any clues. You're really kind of thrown in the dark, in a way.
They seem like real people. It's a good thing.
Oh my god,
And
yeah.
Virtue's Last Reward has a sci-fi story. It kind of goes into sci-fi. I think it does it well.
It's a perfect compromise, in my opinion.
And this one is this weird kind of thing in the middle, in this boring setting where, like the laboratory setup.
They could have done better. Like, there's an entire plot point in this series that, oh, by the way, everything is like a hologram, not a hologram, but like a picture on the walls. Like, you have the one room that has Cloudland and Forestland. Why didn't they make a game which was that? Like, by the way, because if they're going to fight anyways, you're stuck in a holodeck. You're like, it would have been so much. It's one of my favorites about Virtue's Last Reward when you go into the botanical garden, and it's like, oh man, that's awesome. Like the panel on the ceiling that made the sky, an interesting new setting that didn't see game, which made for a sensory shock, which a lot of games have been doing recently, lately, which was great. But this one, they had that, just didn't do anything with it, so kept the same boring.
Yeah.
That they all look the same.
Yeah.
Like, there's no like like the last game, there's no room with like a weird round for the robot to ride on. Like, they, in going more mature, like, M-rated horror game, like, they took fun out of it, and it didn't, like, they could have told a more serious story, but they also didn't. It was still kind of silly and good, but not well done.
And that leads, I think, perfectly into the characters, who I kind of thought they took this kind of, we're gonna go hard M now, and we're gonna dark, adult.
No, only Mira was dark.
Oh no, Junpei I thought was completely
he
was
just emo.
I want to give like a little rant for a second, and I hated Junpei. They ruined him completely in this game, and he gets redemption apparently where he gets all poses. I'm like, you don't deserve that. You deserve to be unhappy man drinking alone in the corner. He was an asshole throughout the whole game. I didn't buy his thing. Oh yeah, so after 999, I went to a firm for 1 night and saw a lot of bad
He
things.
also said they dropped school, so the crazy detective firms like high-low school dropout, yeah, work for
learn about rape, murder. It makes sense that would be who should be events. So you think of all that, but like forced to do kind of Saw-style puzzle. I have to kill people and watch what happens. Like, I totally buy that. It makes sense that someone returning would be crazy one. Junpei was just a jackass. And
he wasn't crazy. He seemed pretty sane.
Yeah. He was just a complete asshole, and also you think the people back would have had more tips?
Oh my god, yeah! Like, Junpei especially, I'm like, dude, you've been through this! You've been through this before! Why don't you know what we're talking about here? Why do you seem so confused?
Also, like, it's and I guess this is more, again, back to plot, but we're in a situation like this with, 4+ characters who have been through it before, and it's a crazy, bunker situation, and no one decides to punch the wall ever.
True.
Like, or no one gets angry and throws a chair and it happens to hit the wall, revealing the whole secret things. That's just a weird aside. But yeah, Junpei was weird.
And again, the fact that they brought back the returning characters, think, oh, maybe we're going to learn some more things about them. I thought they didn't really do a lot with returning characters. Sigma was the only one who kind of, I thought, got something out of it.
Yeah, it was a good game for Sigma.
Yeah.
Like, Phi did not do much.
Phi was there as like a plot nugget, where it's like, oh man, if you liked Phi, don't worry about this game. But man, this the last game, this will explain that a little bit. And make any shipping you used to do really creepy. So have fun with that, kids.
That means that dialogue went back to like, oh Jesus, that's some creepy dialogue.
There's some weird things. Like, we should, I guess, go through the character. So yeah, Phi was disappointing that she didn't get much in this game.
But I felt like at least her interaction with Sigma was
that was
nice.
That was the best.
It was
that
good
was
dialogue.
really good. Yeah.
And I think even though it's, the North American recording practices, so there's not actual chemistry, I think both of their English actors have really good chemistry with each other. So I guess it's weird artificial chemistry, but they did pretty well.
Diana was just Luna again, so there's nothing else there except marrying.
I liked... Well, yeah, nothing else there. Like, she was the pivotal plot point of the entire game.
Well, I just mean, like... there's nothing really else going on in her, like, storyline. She's just, like, she marries Sigma. I mean, there's nothing else kind of interesting. Yeah. She's just there as, we know, okay, it's Luna, something's gonna happen, that's all it is. That was great. That was one of my favorite moments.
Also, she had an ex-husband who beat her.
Oh, yeah.
That was a thing.
Those were the fun, like, mature...
that's how they earn the M rating. But yeah, like, her character, she wasn't that interesting. Like, just her reason for existing was kind of interesting. And I liked the connection to Luna. Like, that had some weird tragedy. Again, but actually, you know what? No. Diana wasn't great, but her connection to Sigma was great.
Yeah.
Like, again, like, as I said, like, I'm just sort of reflecting on it now. This is a great game for last game Sigma.
Yeah.
Like, I think Sigma might be the best character in this game.
Yeah.
I think I'd agree.
And I think the best part of this game is that it makes the last game Sigma more interesting, which is still this game Sigma, but...
Yeah. I will say I did like Carlos, I guess, as protagonist number 3 as the straight guy. Like, even though he's
an anime main character, just an old anime main character.
Even if he didn't really have another one of those, I don't know what I'm doing in the story, like he's...
I think my favorite moment when he comes as a fireman and he's like, hey guys, I kept my promise, I saved you.
Oh, yeah?
Well, bad luck, buddy. We're in the awful timeline where most people die. And he's like, but I saved you. I lived for 10 months doing nothing and starved with an old dog, and then I used the time machine, and then I went to the outside world somehow, put on my fireman suit, and saved you by blowing up a wall, but I have an axe for some reason. I'm not sure if he did. But, and, like, that was a great, funny moment, but also, like, a really good example of the weird, confusing writing. I like Carlos, okay.
And I thought Akane was kind of just there. I mean, again, you think for someone now, it's like we saw, like, her from 99, we saw the old, cool Akane from 3rd game, which is like, I planned all of this. Like,
She went murdery in a lot of timelines.
Yeah, it was unexpected. I mean, I don't know. I didn't really see that in her characterization in like either of the first two games, right?
In one or two, the Akane there, like you could see her killing people, but not going crazy with a chainsaw and killing people. You could see her like, you know what? I'm gonna take 45 years and kill people at a nice slow pace. Mm-hmm. You don't see her like. I guess, she loved Junpei, but, wonder why.
He was an asshole.
But, like, having her chainsaw Carlos seemed like, why?
Akane? Yeah, she seems like someone who would be very rational, right? So for her to suddenly up and be like, oh, it must have been you.
But you know what? It might have just been Delta, because he was just standing there watching all the murders happen in the wheelchair. And, like, everyone's just watching this old guy like, oh, he doesn't care watching us murder people. So he could have just mind-controlled Akane into chainsawing everyone.
And can I just say as an aside about characters, I kept thinking the dog, they're slinging with them, like...
Yeah, and there wasn't.
Yeah.
Which was hilarious.
Like, I kept being like, must be something the dog, like, I bet...
And then sometimes they go to, like, it was you, Delta, and point, and then they'd have, like, the green view thing. It's like, is that the dog's view? Is the dog Delta? Is the dog Five's brother somehow? Because at that point I learned that. Spoiler, but...
Five's brother.
It's like, is the dog a robot, too? And, like, no, because then he gets shot, because... Delta's also a jerk, but sometimes.
And I thought Team C was like the most sounds like don't play. Someone said play Team Q first. Like it's the most boring out of the three, and
it's the most boring and also the most awful. Like,
oh god, Eric. Every reaction was the same. Temper tantrum. I'm going to kill everyone.
I'm sorry, I have a temper tantrum. Maybe I am a nice guy. I actually wanted to learn about my ice cream store. I gotta shoot all of you. What's going on? Like
I love you, Mira.
I was like, you're dying right now, sir. You should not love this person. And like, oh, what is wrong with him? Like, he's kind of like the straight man. But, like, the straight man you don't want in this sort of situation where, like, yeah, you know what? Someone probably would go crazy and hate everything that's going on and be kind of mentally unhinged, but no.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm also going to say about Mira, I mean, every game kind of has, like, well, 99 really didn't, but Dio was sort of, like, I guess the villain or the most evil character. But Mira, like, do they really have to go, like, the over-the-top, like, I'm, like, the
heart ripper,
the heart serial killer, and like you said, the heart ripping scene. Like again, this is kind of what Candice saying. It's almost like a comedy. It's almost like too much. Like you can't really like. It's not even scary at that point.
No, it's just corny. It's another.
And she was another one where just like, yep, I'm bad, and I have no emotions, and I don't care about you, Eric. And she really didn't do much for me.
She wasn't that interesting. Like again, I liked her being the origin point for Robot Sean and Akane, kind of, but like that was just like, oh, it's the snail thing. But she bugged me, like,
yeah,
I felt like they could have done a lot more with her character, but they didn't. She was like Vi, where she just became a plot nugget.
And the fact that she was like working for Zero was kind of like, it seemed like they kind of brushed over it. Like I feel like in the last games when you find out that people are secretly working for Zero or secretly involved, like even in the second game Junpei's like, but sorry guys, I've known about a lot of this for a while. It was this like huge, big moment, like, oh, he's known who Zero is and all these other things. In this game it's like, oh yeah, Mira's been working for me. It's fine. And it's like, no, it's not fine. Why is... And, she went around and murdered people in other timelines. Okay.
Yep, we are running out of time, so we're just going to do a bit more... I know, we can keep going for hours.
Yeah, definitely.
But, I mean, I think I'm just going to go through a few things that probably, I thought pacing with this game was really bad.
It's so bad.
The first 2 hours, I couldn't take it. Like, there were so many cutscenes. Just give me a puzzle, please. I don't want to go through any more dialogue. And then I finally found the skip button. But I think it took 2 hours to get to the first puzzle room. Like, it felt like 2 hours.
Man, it wasn't even just, like, how much dialogue. It was, like, certain types of things that they were saying and how slow they were saying them. Like, I remember there was this one part where Diana, like, Gab brings this antidote, and then Diana's like, oh, what is this? It's an antidote. Gab brought an antidote. I'm like, yes. If you're dying dying. Please take the antidote. Please, just do it. I'm dying here just watching you.
And
Please.
they, like, cut to a scene of them all laying. It's like, well, I guess it's a good thing the antidote came. Should we take the antidote? Like, it's like, you didn't take it? I thought you'd already taken it. And they cut to a different scene. All 6 of the antidotes are still in the thing. It's like, well, we're running out of time. We should probably take the antidotes. But why are there 6? Take one of the antidotes. Is it just half of them in each of them?
Maybe it's a trap.
Well, and I think this kind of goes pair and pair the pacing was the way they approached, I think, the puzzles this time with, again, they're trying to make it different by having these, like, the puzzles in the sense of, like, having the different options of playing them out and, like, kind of forcing you. It was kind of interesting in the sense of, they said, well, like, the characters somehow might have played this a million times, and now you just finally got the one that was right, because with some of the puzzles, like, the poison one, or the lockers, like they said, you could have done this a million times, or the one with
the dice. Or
the dice.
The dice, yeah.
And I mean, it was sort
the
of
gun.
The gun, and it did kind of create some pacing issues. Because like, okay, come on, can we just do this? And then it's like, got to do it all over again, and it made things, I think, slow sometimes, like really slow, and almost unbearable. And that also went with the cutscenes, which some of them were just so long,
Yeah.
and. Again, I want to bring up the we'll call it I guess Diana Sigma ending. That I swear was 20 minutes long. 10 minutes. I think I watched a 10-minute video.
So
I was just laying in bed, just like, okay.
like I actually I don't mind that in general. And I think that's probably why I had like a greater tolerance for like the story elements of this game. Because there is, I forget, it's the second or third BlazBlue fighting game, and most of that game is cutscene. Like, by the last games in the series, by the end, you're just having visual novel cutscenes, and there's maybe, like, 3 fighting game things per, like, main story. In the Persona 3 fighting game, forget what it's called, Ultimate Arena Smash Persona Arena event, there's... and so in the first one of that series, there's Labris. Her campaign is literally 40 minutes of cutscenes and 1 battle. So I guess I have a resistance to long cutscenes.
I would not be happy with that.
And as I mentioned, I got frustrating with the quality of the puzzles in this game, gave up after halfway through the game and just watched the cutscenes because I was curious about the story. Because I thought even the puzzles were weakest in this game. So...
And you were saying, I think it's similar thing, Candice, you didn't like the puzzles as much as the earlier games.
Yeah, no, I found the puzzle rooms to be kind of irritating because there were a lot of times where I couldn't find all the clues. Like, I would be clicking at, like, the stack of whatever, and, I figure, oh, you click on one of them, and it's like, it tells you, generally, there's nothing here, but you have to click on the one specific one, and I'm just like, come on, guys.
But then sometimes they also do it automatically for you, which
Yeah.
is a weird kind of thing. Like, sometimes it won't and sometimes it will. Like, there's a lot of inconsistency where sometimes you'll have to, like, click every single tiny bolt on the screen.
Oh my god,
Other times
yeah.
you'll click, like, one, like, glass jar or something, it'll say glass jar, and then the screen will zoom out and it'll automatically take, like, glass jars in every corner of the screen because I guess you were supposed to.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like they could have done way better with that because I spent a lot of time just looking for clues, and then sometimes I would think, oh, I have all the clues, why can't I figure it out?
Yeah, I remember the specimen jar one, I couldn't figure that one out.
Oh,
and
that one was
that was
funny.
luck. I just, like, switch, and I eventually got like, oh, thank God. Because I had no internet when I was playing this, so I was just texting people for help, and there was one of the electrical wires where you had to, like, I could not.
That took forever.
That took... But, I mean, I don't mind that because some of the hard puzzles, that's kind of the fun part of it. Although I will say, unlike the older games, there was no exhilaration when you beat it. Like, yes, I beat it! Like, what's the next thing? This was like, okay, I beat it, now it's me back to Mira, and
there
Sean
wasn't-
being, shaking his head.
Despite the fact that a lot of the very fewer of the puzzles in this game we're stuck in a room, we gotta get out. And a lot of them were like, okay, this puzzle will lead us to the next moment in the story. They didn't connect to the story as well as the second game, Where the second game, you had the whole robot room that
Mm-hmm.
once you finish it, we have a weird, tertiary character who's going to tell you about things, and it's like, oh, cool! Like the entire purpose of the puzzle I just did has given me a reward of a Cockney accent robot.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. There was none of that in this game. Like, none of the puzzle rooms felt like you finished it and like, oh boy. Except maybe the alien teleport.
Time machine one.
Yeah.
But...
I feel like part of the reason for that is just the entire shtick of the game, where it's like after, what was it, like 90 minutes?
Yeah.
Everyone gets, ejected, and then they go to sleep, they lose their memory. So, I don't know, I feel like part of the reason they didn't put that in is because of that.
Yeah.
So they kind of shot themselves in the foot there.
And I think we should bring up again, like, the visual changes and in terms of the graphics and, like, the quality of the cutscenes. I know Candice, you said you hated it.
Oh my god, it was so bad. They're so awkward. The animations, like, anytime they do anything that's supposed to be serious, anytime there's a close-up on their faces, they just have this dumb, mouth-open expression, and it's so bad. I can't take anything serious. Like, they're running, they look like they're, running, trying to touch their knees while they're doing it.
And it's hard to tell if they're, like, drugged in some instances, because sometimes their eyes will roll up. It's like, are you dead? Are you unconscious? Are you crazy? Because, like, they use the same weird eye roll up thing for, like, 5 different states of being.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that when they had back in Sword, they had the title cards, am I using the right term? Animated cards? Like,
Let's just say portraits, character
Portraits.
portraits.
Yeah.
or like when there's an ending, they'd have that like nicely animated,
Yeah.
and that was way better at displaying what a cutscene would display in 5 minutes, like those cards. Like telling Candice, and actually I think another person I talked to had the same example. Was when you think back in '99 when Clover had the axe in the cutscene in that card, and they didn't have to have a fancy cutscene. That was scary enough.
Oh my god,
that
I was so
unexpected and
scared.
scary. And this game with all its stuff, all the cutscenes, all that additional power could not come close to that moment. If you think about it now with Clover and the axe.
And even with Virtue's Last Reward, you had kind of a compromise scenario where most of the time it sort of muddles, but essentially working as character portrait. Then for like a few moments you had like, cutscene, like when Fi's jumping for the first time, when Fi's kicking Dio. Like you had moments where like animation worked. A lot of the time for this game, like I guess there were a lot of things that you could do in this game due to like the cutscene. Again, even as dumb as it was, the scene with the different medicine vials. Like, there was a lot of, I guess, freedom that you got with the scenes of different types of scenes to explore easier without saying, like, here's the characters in the same, state of, like, they're not dirty, they're the exact same they always are, in the exact same positions, and they're describing what's happening. Oh, why are you kneeling down? Even though they're, like, Clover's doing the Clover pose or something. So, like, there's less sort of theater of the mind that you need to kind of stretch because of the cut. They just didn't execute very well.
Oh, they really didn't.
And before we talk about, I think, the series overall, where the director wants to go, and, let's just talk about the ending.
What ending?
Lord. Yeah, seriously.
And again, we've already said spoilers, so the final, in 99, correct me if I'm wrong, both of you, but that kind of has, that's sort of a solid ending. So, like, okay, there's no real hint. As
and then fun little hints of
yeah.
what maybe's to come. Oh, is that Alice? Ooh.
And then, as Geoff, we discussed it before we started, was if reward, you can have an ending, and then you get the big reveal of all these things could happen, and it really does whet your appetite for this game. When I think back of it, because
what's gonna happen to Kyle?
some really good twist at the
mark.
end. Like the whole thing of Akane was like to me, like God, she's there.
Yeah, that was fun.
So, and then this game, I don't know, Cam, do you want to tell everyone what the ending was in this one, or what kind of ending did we get?
Well, it was like a cliffhanger ending where I feel like they should have wrapped this up. They really should have. Like, I thought this game was going to wrap. That's the idea, right?
Yeah.
And it was all characters connecting to each other. It was a very wrap-up type of thing.
Yeah, they did, that, so they get props for that. But just having to be like, well, you can choose to shoot me now, or, go save the world, or whatever. I thought we were going to save the whole game. What happened?
I also like...
That's a full game.
Oh, no.
And also just all the moments leading up to that is like... And it's like, well, I guess we did it, and, Delta comes out and is like, oh, good job, by the way, I didn't kill the dog in this timeline, so you can tell I'm in good character now. and he's like, and they're like, oh man, it's Delta, we're gonna kill you, Zero, you're the worst person. Like, well, I gave you the opportunity for a timeline where, 2 billion people get to live, but no, you want this timeline when the 8 billion, all the people die. And they're like, shut up! And no one actually has a defense for that, because what he said, he's telling the truth. And he's like, well, we're in this timeline. And they're like, well, you still were a bad person. But then he's like, wait. Think about it. Everything I made you do, you hate me, which has made you change the timeline, which means maybe you're going to go kill the terrorist. So it's like, are we in a different timeline because of that? So why are you doing this? So he's like, maybe no one has to die now. What do you want, Zero? Do you want us to help you kill the terrorists? I don't get it. Like,
that's kind of lame, like, oh, this was just one of my many reasons. I also wanted to be born. And I'm like... I just kind of looked at him like, what? That's it?
Also alive was a nice side effect of my crazy plan.
Oh, don't worry. He was somehow sent back to 1900.
Yeah. No, Phi was. That was the most ridiculous thing. Because that's what I was, when I was going through it, I was like, wait, I thought Phi was in 2008. It was like, yes, but Phi also went to 1904, but then was sent a few years later, 2008, by the crazy German scientist. And it's like, what? Why them both to 2008?
That's why you read the notes, because the notes tells us these things.
No, not the notes.
Oh, but Zero's basically, and I was the guy along. Gonna kill me, Carlos? And Carlos is like, maybe, bitch! Why Carlos?
Because he's the third protagonist.
Only because Sean was a robot.
Oh. We did that once already, game. We didn't have to do the same trick twice. Even though you didn't know head. But yeah, and then I know, like Candice is saying, like, there's all the notes at the end. We're like, read the notes and see the true ending with the characters.
They really should have incorporated those somehow into the actual game and not just been like, oh, here's, like, what happens afterwards, Like, I would have, like even with, in the credits, they have, like, little scenes that happen,
Yeah, just stills with text, like explaining Sean's backstory, or not, but I guess Sean's, Sean's alternate timeline Matrix ending, or, like, all the Maria stuff. Oh, yeah, by the way, the game moves like Sonic Adventure, and then freaking Carlos has, like, oh, Maria moments, which was amazing. It's a Sonic reference, never mind. But, like, that we get the Maria, it's just things like that for the final endings. Just watercolor paintings, text.
Guess they ran out of budget.
But no,
I know.
Maybe they shouldn't have spent it on all this other random shit. Jesus.
So many cutscene shots of, like, the different devices, the escape devices, the force quit boxes.
0 minutes left in this segment.
Alright, so before we end off with this month's episode, we'd like to announce that for next month, the Big N will be taking a break from our normal routine, and we will bring you our retro reviews. This is the first time we'll be doing this. So when Mike and I first discussed making this podcast, it became apparent that both of us have a list of games that neither of us, that either one of us haven't played. So depending on our systems and the range of what we had as kids, or vice versa. So next month we'll be looking at games that one of us really likes, but the other hasn't played yet. We will see how well this game is aged, and if nostalgia has factored into any of it. And please look forward to that.
And during this episode, we want to give out a shout out to Intelligent Systems, the makers of Paper Mario Color Splash. I really like the Paper Mario series. I've played all 4, and it's one of my favorite series. And Paper Mario Thousand Year Door is probably one of my favorite games of all time. But, this E3, Intelligent Systems announced a new Paper Mario Color Splash. And after E3, Intelligent Systems seem to be making a lot of interviews, perhaps to try to clear some misconceptions about the game. So let's help them clear some of these misconceptions. Fears of this game based on comments like Color Splash being a natural successor to Paper Mario Sticker Star, or that Paper Mario or the Paper Mario series is being less of an RPG is differentiated from the Mario Luigi series. We at the Big N would love to know who Intelligent Systems focus group is. Who said they like Sticker Star? Nobody likes Sticker Star. Let's make that clear. No one. 0. No one liked the game. Yet here we go. Sticker Star 2.0. I'm sure it's going to sell really well. Maybe it'll get some great reviews again at 60% or 50%, wherever it had Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay, but did Sticker Star sell?
It did.
It did.
Well, there you go.
Yes.
The only
They
issue
want
is
money.
The only issue is people didn't like it, and then unfortunately they're following the money trail, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, and
It's the-
or how about the fact that, you know, they're making Paper Mario less of an RPG. Mario and Luigi series has been steadily moving away from being a pure RPG. But my favorite thing they showed in the interviews was the worst indication about the Paper Mario series, and also I guess the Mario and Luigi series, has to be what Geoff here said last week about two series have basically become about catching toads. And that's a really good summary of both series. It's about catching toads. Because both these series were about celebrating and exploring the wackiness and creativity that exists in the Mario universe. But if the highlighted color splash is having the Koopa children appear, then this game will be as shallow as the colorless world that you explore in it. And today in the end, Big N, we would like to thank all of our guests, Junaid, Geoff, and Candice for appearing on this episode. Thanks, guys. Hope you'll be back for future
I
episodes.
don't know why I waved, because this is not a
Our main theme is provided by YouTube Audio Library. If you have any questions or comments, please email us at TheBigNPodcast@gmail.com. If you like what you did today, please subscribe to our channel. I'm Mike,
Nathan.
and this is The Big N.